Hello, happy Monday. We
So,
are back again. The weeks fly by so fast, but we are back, Lady Wake and Leo, with the relationship series. Welcome back, you all. Um, I am Lady Wake. Lady Wake is a dual meaning. It is my name and has the meaning of awakening ladies to ourselves, for ourselves. So everything we do on this platform is about self-healing, self-elevation, understanding, and awakening is a very loose term that people use in many different ways. So take it as it resonates for you specifically. We have Leo as a very special guest host in this season as we explore relationship topics and dynamics. And Leo is my brother, Dr. Leo, as many are starting to call him because he be on here snapping out. And this, I don't know, we might have one more show after this one, but um, we need to dive into infidelity. Like we've been kind of nice with y'all, you know what I'm saying, with these topics.
real nice.
Real nice, right? But we have not talked about infidelity. So Leo, today we're going to talk about infidelity, but won't you say hi to the people, you know?
Wow. Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Leo. Good to be back. Happy Monday. You made it past most of the day. And as promised, we're right back here at Monday again. These weeks are flying by. We're staring spring right in the face. Hopefully, the weather turns soon for us.
Wait, but he say for us like hold on. He say us like he in Chicago or something. This this dude all the way over there in the fake South. I call Virginia the fake South. In the fake South where I don't know what's the temperature. I know it's warmer than this.
It was like 70 today, I
Oh
think.
come on, dude! Really, really? Did you say hopefully it warms up? It's 40 degrees. I don't even look. I'm about to cut you off. Come on, Joe. Okay, I'm gonna stop hating in this moment. Well, we'll hopefully borrow some of your heat as we go forward. Y'all can share. You got enough over there. But Leo,
Yeah,
um, what's up with infidelity? Why is there so much
infidelity. Why is there so much?
infidelity, cheating? What's going on?
Wow. Well, I I wish we could quantify how much this actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
I try to be realistic. I don't know enough people in the world to say what percentage of relationships experience infidelity, but I believe that the percentage is pretty high, maybe 60 to 70%. That's kind of being nice.
Yeah, that's been very nice.
Yes.
If you look
Uh,
at media at all, they make it feel like is the vast majority of people, like over 80%.
that
Um,
is,
we don't know if
and
that's true or not, but that's what it feels like.
true. Well, maybe we have to start with defining what does that mean to us. Is it just a sexual thing? I hear some people refer to emotional cheating. Is that really a thing? Like, what do we think, or do we want to stick to the basics? A sexual thing.
Um, See, that's tough. That's tough for me personally because everybody's really different. One, and I don't know about emotional cheating. I don't really believe in stuff like that per se. I do believe in making commitments or decisions and keeping your word. So to me, lying and cheating is kind of on the same level because you have to like one leads to the other or vice versa. I don't know. I don't mind the sex part so much, honestly. I don't really care. But If you lied to me or, hid it, which is a version of lying, in my opinion, to get it or, to avoid me knowing about it, then I feel violated
Okay.
or like my partner violated our relationship. If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah. So basically, it is a diversion of whatever you agreed to as a couple, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
To something else.
Right.
And honestly, I feel the same way. To me, that's what cheating really is. Whatever we agreed on as a couple, however we agreed to deal with each other,
Right.
someone decided to do something else without an agreement.
Right. Exactly. And that's the absolute worst. The worst.
Yes, and well, there's going to be a lot of questions um, about this, but I have to ask to start with: Is there a good? Is there ever a good or valid reason for cheating, in your opinion? Because I've had this conversation with several people before, and I've been amazed
Yeah.
at the responses.
Um, because hey y'all, I see y'all. Um, you know what? There are many people who will say yes. I was about to say women, but men too. There are many people who will say yes. Um, and I personally don't think there is. I don't think there's any valid reason. Honestly, I don't. Because a commitment is a commitment. If you change your mind about a commitment, you need to let that person know. Like I've been in situations many times, more times than I can count, where a married person is trying to approach me and I'm going, well, you're married. Why are you talking to me? And their response is, well, some big complaint about their wife. We don't have sex. She not like she used to be. She don't, pay me no attention.
Of course.
I don't give a. How is that my problem? Really? But that's how people act. It's like they think they talk themselves into validation around this, this subject. So it's like, well, since I'm not getting what I want at home, it's her job or his job. It goes both ways. But it's my partner's job to fulfill me in whatever way, I think they should, or whatever way we agreed to. If that's not happening, it's my right? Or I'm justified for going outside of our relationship to get what I want. And that's never the truth. It never is. And my response is always, that has nothing to do with me. Like, I have no sympathy for you because a relationship is showing up and choosing a person every single day, in my mind, in my opinion. That's what it's about. And to me, if you're telling me all these things that are wrong in your home, in your relationship, but you still go home every day to this person, you're still sleeping with them, you're still sharing a life, you're still, taking care of a family, sharing resources. Like that's where all your money, your time, all your energy, all your resources go
Right.
into this home with this person that, you share with. So you're still choosing them, in my opinion. If there was something that big, that horrible happening, get a divorce because I don't want to hear it. But all the time, and I've also heard the other side where the spouse cheated first, so now they're cheating. And
Right.
that comes up a lot too. And to them, that's justification. To me, it is not. Unless you deliberately said, okay, I changed my mind. Now that you did that, I changed my mind. I'm no longer committing to you. Unless you've told them that that's what's happening, it's not a valid reason. What do you think, Joe?
Well, man, Joe, I think it's very interesting that you have this point of view. You're one of the very few people who I've talked to who actually believe that there basically is no excuse for infidelity.
Really?
But yes, I've heard so many people saying, "Well, it depends on what was the reason. What did they say happened? Why did they do it? No.
Yeah.
If you can read and write, and if you can reason and make decisions, okay, like the decision you made to have a commitment, then you know what you're doing. And you know
Right.
what? If you want to talk about the reason somebody did it, I'll tell you the reason before you tell me. The reason was because you wanted to. Okay.
That's what I was gonna say. Because you wanted to.
There's really no other explanation. We can always talk about what someone didn't do for us. We can always talk about how unhappy we are.
Right.
Well, you're not in chains. You know what I mean? You're not in handcuffs. You know, it's your decision to stay or leave.
Right.
And you know what? If things are that bad or if you're that unsatisfied, I say the same thing. Well, why couldn't you walk away?
Right. Why you still
Because
there?
yeah, to me, it's a dishonorable thing as far as that goes. And I'm not saying that anybody's supposed to be perfect. We're human, but when you make mistakes, I think it's important to own up to the mistake and stick to that point. You know what I mean? You had an agreement, you broke the agreement. Now you might have reasons, but I wouldn't allow excuses.
Who says it's a mistake though? That's my thing.
Well, I don't, you know,
I
but
think
some
many times it's not.
you know how it is. Oh, nobody's perfect, blah, blah, blah. Sure, you're right. But again, you did it because you wanted to do it.
Right. Right. And not that it's never a mistake. I think sometimes people do like slip up and make a bad decision, but it's not who they are, on a normal basis. But I think a lot of people, that is who they are.
Right. They were not prepared
Or,
to make a commitment.
right. Or it's not, right, right. Exactly. It's not a one time decision. It's something they've decided to do in perpetuity. Like this is
So,
the other
and
part of their life.
would you say it's more of a selfish decision to put someone on hold for oneself and say, I want you to stay right here, but
Hmm.
I'm not really ready to just be with you. I just don't want you to be with anyone else.
Oh yeah. Oh, and people, oh my God. I feel like I just had that experience. People, look, dude, I can't, I feel like selfish is not even a big enough word because I feel like it's okay to do what you want to do. I think that's perfectly fine. Um, Even if that's being with more, that's fine. If that's what you want to do, do it. I don't think it's okay to deceive other people, or manipulate other people to get what you want. And that's what most people end up doing because of exactly what you said. They want this person here for whenever they want them, and they want to be off doing whatever they want to do at the same time, and controlling that person to make sure that they're not with anybody else with these lies and fairy tales or whatever. And it's a very common thing. And I see it, and I've done it, and I've had it done to me. And I don't even know if selfish, because it's a very childish thing to do. It's extremely childish. That's what kids do. They're underdeveloped mentally and emotionally, and they all they know is what they want, and they want it now. And
Right.
so they do whatever they can to get what they want right now, because that's all they got. That's as far as they've gotten, developmentally. And so I think people are stifled developmentally. A lot of people are stifled in that way that they don't know how, in my opinion, they're
Yeah.
just scared. They don't know how to face their fear of not having everything they want,
Ah,
you know?
wow.
And it's ironic because once you start to lie and manipulate and try to control somebody, you don't have what you want anyway, because there's no peace in that. There's no way to be balanced in that environment. That's self-destructive. Because all that negative energy you put out, it comes right back. It's self-destructive. So even when it looks like it's working for a minute, in the long run, it never does. You're doing nothing. Like it's a cute little dance you're trying, but you're doing nothing.
You're still not.
but destroying yourself because you're still not happy.
You know what? If people didn't know us, they would swear we were brother and sister. You always know how to help me segue to my response. I'm glad because the first question was why.
Mm-hmm.
You asked why is there so much infidelity? And I wanted to answer that by saying, and of course there are several reasons. I think a big reason is the rise of low self-esteem. Now let me explain. If you look at most relationships, people are not happy and you cannot do anything to help them be happy.
Right.
Okay. We are so busy looking everywhere else, but in our own lives, okay, including, as you mentioned, pop culture or social media where we're looking at what everyone else has going on.
Mm-hmm.
And people really dislike themselves,
Yeah.
on the inside. And when people dislike themselves, they make terrible decisions.
Right.
And when you need validation and constant attention because you don't love your own self, you will do whatever it takes to get a high from another energy source.
Yes. Yes.
And there's so much of that going on, and it's internal. It's not that you are making them unhappy people.
Right.
It's that they don't really like themselves. They're still looking, for what validates them
Right.
because they never validated themselves. And I think that is a big reason why there's so much more and why there's so little shame in it now. Because
Yes.
everybody's doing it.
Yep. And the easiest way, of course, to get validation from other people is to make something normal. So now we've made this low self-esteem, as you say, or this rise in low self-esteem a normal thing. It's okay to be, what they say, like boyfriend number two, side dude, side chick. And I don't think there's a problem with being a side person if it's open.
I
Like
agree.
if you can openly communicate with people and they okay with it, he okay with it, she okay with it. Like if everybody's okay with it, whatever, have an open relationship. But to spend your energy sneaking around, using people, and not that we all don't use, like we can't get along on this earth. There's nothing to do without each other. So we need each other, but to deliberately use somebody is different. So all that is just, it makes low self-esteem look normal. And so people get to do more of it. And then I think back to one of our first discussions around relationships. And you talked about the difference, say, 60 years ago, where people had to, or even shoot 100 years ago, where people needed each other. Like
Right.
marriage is not that old. The institution of marriage is not that old. And so when it started, it was something, for one, women needed in a way, because the way the world is set up, men ran everything. And so women needed some protection, so marriage was a form of protection. It was a form of provision. They needed to be provided for because they couldn't work. Their job was to have kids. So either it was your father taking care of you or your husband taking care of you. If you were single for any reason, an orphan, a widow, or whatever, it was hard. It was really hard, and you only had a few options. You could live in a monastery or something. You could be a teacher. You only had a few options. And so as time has gone on, women have all the options lately: working, making money, having businesses, and are able to make other decisions. Just like men, same thing. Now they're not stuck to having to take care of this family because that was a societal norm. They can make other decisions. And so now everybody has the opportunity to make other decisions, but they still have that mindset of this is what I'm supposed to do. It is that, I was going to say slavery mentality, but basically a version of that, because the mindset is the same. Like I'm supposed to do this traditional monogamous situation, but I'm really curious about this and that and whatever. And people want to explore. And because nobody's incomplete, there's not a single person that's incomplete. The whole purpose of this life is to continue to expand. There's no completion going on anyway. It's natural to me that people will want to explore, but it becomes unnatural and unkind and self deprecating when people turn to lies and deception to just be human, in my opinion. It's just being a
That's,
human being.
so that's a really interesting point you just made. If I understand you to paraphrase, are you suggesting that most people see it easier to cheat and sneak around than to be upfront about their own inclinations and talk to, people who they want to be with and let it be known that, hey, I want to be with multiple people?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
That's something that you don't really hear on a daily basis being discussed. But it's really hard to argue against that given the percentage of people that we know of who are sneaking around basically or being dishonest,
Yeah.
you know, as a whole. And I thought that was a good point that you brought up, when there was a time where we were more institutionalized and we had to marry, in order to be able to survive and have a family structure and everything. And then now we have more access, obviously, to other people,
Right.
and it's more acceptable, and more ways to hide, frankly,
Yes.
what
It's a
you're
lot
doing.
easier. Yeah. We got the
um,
whole World Wide Web.
yes. So would you say that people were always inclined this way, but they weren't able to practice it as much?
I do believe that. I completely believe that. Um, I believe before the institution was created, well, I have believe it and I have no because of history. So history is still there. It's plain and clear. All the books are there. We can read
Yeah.
and draw conclusions. And I don't mean the Bible history, even though it's there too, but actual American history denotes that people were freer centuries ago before the institution of marriage was a wide, spread thing. And families were still families, whether there were, two fathers and three mothers or whatever. The community was a family in itself. And that was still important to people, and people still worked together and they built together and things like that. But they didn't have to hide. They didn't have to make up stuff. They didn't have to lie. Not about stuff like that, not sexual desires, not desires to be with people or to love people. They could openly love whoever. It was
I
fine.
see.
Not a big deal. And I think the access makes a big difference now after after being institutionalized. The access makes a big difference, and our statistics back it up. Marriage statistics. Because most marriages fail. Most marriages fail quickly, and then in the grand scheme of things, more than half of marriages fail, right? And then the statistics on single parenting now. Like at some point, they were in a relationship, they created this child, and it didn't work. This is so high. The percentages are so high on relationships that don't work. And when you drill down into those statistics, mostly the reasons that people say, these are their reportings, they say the reasons is because of some type of infidelity,
Right. Wow.
lying and cheating.
This is true. So, do you think that we have basically been sold an idea that is less natural, that every one person belongs with one person?
Well, I do not. No. I believe that some people are monogamous people. Like they prefer that dynamic, and some people are not, and they prefer a non-monogamous dynamic. I don't think there's a one fit for everyone, but at the same time, I do believe we've been sold this false idea or this false premise that this is what the norm should be, because that's what we've been sold, that the norm should be this one thing, and there's no one thing for anybody. And so, and it's a really, for me, it's very interesting. It's an interesting study because I love people. I love learning and understanding people and how we think and make decisions. And I am polyamorous. So in my experiences in a poly environment where people are open to love other people openly, date other people, have full blown relationships, have sex, have kids, whatever they want to do. People have all kind of open elements to their relationships, and still the same issue occurs where people are scared to be honest about what they really want. They're scared if they change their mind about something. They're scared to tell their partner if they, figure out, like, if they fall in love with somebody new. They're scared. It's like, why? This is the whole purpose. But again, it's being institutionalized to the degree where you really have to dig those old habits and energies out of you over
Oh,
time. It takes some time.
wait a minute. Are
Uh-oh.
you saying people can be in an open relationship and still be sneaking around?
Yep.
It's bad out here.
Yep. Isn't it? Right? And that
Really?
makes me know that there's no difference, that there's no one right way, because
Yeah.
either way is happening. In either way, it is happening.
Wow. So when you talk about people being free in certain environments, that that brings up a very interesting segment of a relationship to me because a lot of people, I think, they are dishonest about their desires because of how they think they will be seen by the other person. And the
Absolutely.
reason I said that is because a lot of people who cheat, they cheat with a totally different type of person. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's, a sexual thing, from just talking to people in general. And it's like a person will be more open, with someone other than their partner.
Right.
And
Oh boy.
wow, yes, to me, that's a very
Joe,
interesting thing. I mean, wow.
that's a
And
mouthful right there.
yes, and a lot of people say, it's from fear of judgment or they can't really be themselves because, they think that you're going to see them in a negative light
Mm-hmm.
or, you're going to see them in a certain type of way that is going to damage the relationship.
Right.
But really the other person is dying to go, in a different direction, maybe even sometimes, but they can't express that.
Right. Now,
Is
let me tell you, real life experiences. Look, this is, and it's a classic case of low self esteem in the sense that you're just not as comfortable with yourself completely. And a lot of people just aren't completely comfortable with themselves. And I think it boils down to people are uncomfortable being in a mid space, just along the journey, not having any strictly defined ideals or principles. Like sometimes you're just trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure out who you are, you're trying to figure out what you want and why, and you don't know completely. Like you don't know, you can't sit and write 1 through 5. This is who I am, this is what it is, and this is it. I'm not accepting anything else. You don't know all the time. You don't know along the entire journey because it changes. Like I said, we're incomplete people. So, and we change as we grow and learn and all these things. And
Uh,
so people are very uncomfortable with the process, I think. And so that brings them there where a person would rather have a side person outside of their marriage or relationship where they can do all the, alternative lifestyle type stuff they want to do, all the nasty stuff they want to do. And it's acceptable to do it with this person, but not my wife. She's a lady, you know, she's just, the beautiful queen. She sits on the throne. Meanwhile, the wife is at home unfulfilled. Like, why won't you do this stuff with me? Like, it's sad. It's so sad. It is so sad. And I've been that person. I've been in that relationship where I'm like, what about me? Like, why you think, because they have this idea in their head
I see.
from being institutionalized that this is what a wife is and this is how you uphold a wife, because she's just a statue. She's a symbol. She's not a real person. She doesn't have desires like you have desires. So that's why they call it the old ball and chain. Oh, when you gonna get married, she about to, what they say, lock you down or whatever. And it's
Yeah.
like this symbol of a person or of a mate.
Right.
It's basically just arm candy. It's just something to say you've reached this status in life. People don't look at their mates as real people. And that goes for men and women, of course. I just happen to be a woman. So, but
Right.
people don't look at their mates as real people often enough, more than they do as a status symbol. People so ready to get married and or stay in a relationship, keep a man, keep a woman to look like they've accomplished something versus
Wow.
accepting what is pure and right and fluid, for them at the time, for
Right.
both of them. But
Wow.
that's a real thing, Joe. People are so scared out here,
I
afraid to
think,
be themselves.
yeah, and I think it's something that's very much overlooked, and it reminds me of a lot of simping. What
Yeah.
you just mentioned about the picture of in this case, a woman that a man would have for his woman, but you know, it's like in the background, he really wants something different, and she wants something different.
Hmm.
Um, but he's afraid to go there.
Right.
Um, And so I had to ask you, with these things being said, would you say that most of our infidelity problems comes from sort of an energy mismatch? Is there a more precise situation where you could be with a partner where you can both allow each other to be free? Because obviously most people don't experience this, right?
Yeah.
At an energy thing, are we just choosing the wrong types of partners?
Well, that's five questions in one, Leo. But I'm gonna let you take. I'm gonna let you have it. Look, the thing is, no, the thing is, um, when we talk about energy, the reality is we attract who we are in that moment. So whatever we're giving most attention to, that's what comes. And it doesn't have to be deliberate, I'm focusing on this thing, but if it's coming up and we're reacting to it, that's giving attention to it. And so I think people oftentimes attract things and don't realize they've attracted it until it's there. So now it's there and it feels like you're a mismatch because you want something else than what you got, right? But you're not a mismatch because there are no flaws in the universal energy in that way. Energy attracts energy, like attracts like. And so you're very well matched. You are just not who you want to be yet, or not as completely who you want to be. And they're not as completely who they want to be, maybe. But energetically, you're matched. And in that example, the man and the woman want the same thing, but he's afraid to say it and she's afraid to say it. He don't want her to think, he's disrespecting her, or he wants her to act like a hoe, or whatever, the stigmas are. She don't want him to think she's a hoe, or whatever. Like you said, they're afraid of what they'll think of each other. But to your other question about the open element, look, it still boils down to the energy and where people are. My last relationship, open, like we went through different stages of openness, and in the end, pretty darn open. Like it was hard in my mind, in my opinion. It's hard to mess this up. It's hard to cheat, because you would have to deliberately go and like make a, like it would just seem so hard because they got to do whatever they wanted to do pretty much, as long as they just said something, told me about it. But still, in the end, it boiled down to them not being comfortable telling me the truth, the absolute truth, how they were really feeling at the time they were feeling it. They waited till it boiled over and got bad until it came out on its own, basically, because you can feel it. And that's another thing too. Energy changes. And even though I would say I'm okay with the change, I'm okay with the journey, I'm okay as long as I know we're on the journey together. That's my thing. But if that person don't believe that, then they won't be honest. They have to believe it too. Both people have to believe it. So just because you have this open option or element, or your swingers, your poly, you have different relationships, different, whatever your thing is, just because you have options doesn't mean, again, you're comfortable enough being completely honest with everybody. And that starts as an inside thing. And the idea that we can't count on other human beings to make us happy. We just can't. That's that's a false premise that we learned during that institutionalization. Like, you need this other half of you. No such thing. Cut it. Cut it. And people will be in complete soulmate relationships. And I don't believe in the one, but I think we all have soulmates, like several of them. And people will be in complete soulmate relationships and not be able to deal because their mind is in this fairy tale land over here. They think it should look like one thing, but it looks like the reality that it is, that they've created, that I've created, that you created. Like, we all are in control of our own lives.
So basically, we want to have this so-called ideal lifestyle, but we are constantly doing things that are not working. And we're
Right.
basically trying to apply the same principles and same behavior to
Yes.
different people.
Yes.
And we're thinking, oh, well, that was just them. I'm going to go get with somebody
Right.
else, the same thing. And yeah, it should work now.
I talked to a friend today. He said, you know what I learned? Libras are not all the same. I was trying to find me a Libra because I'm a Libra, and y'all are not the same. No, duh. Why would you even think that? But that's how people think. Like, you know what? This one just didn't work, but let me try again. Same situation, same lineup, but let me just try again with this same formula, even though it didn't work the first time. And you know what else? I really, I think the journey is so underappreciated, because a lot of times
The journey.
the journey, life's journey, the journey through relationships, I think is underappreciated because people just want to get to the end goal. They don't want to experience anything. Nobody wants to take risk. And you know me, I'm a risk taker in this area of life.
Yes.
Because I love the whole idea of it. I study it, I practice it. And for me, it's a personal challenge to be able to love unconditionally.
Yeah.
And and it takes work and it takes practice, but it's something I'm into. It's like my life's work.
You're very brave.
I am very brave, and that is the absolute truth. Thank you, Leo. It's true though. I am very brave where most people are not, because people don't like to be hurt. But I feel like sometimes one person has a desire and the other person might have the answer. And just because it's not a lifelong relationship doesn't mean you don't get what you need. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
it could be that thing. So, and I mentioned my last relationship and how that kind of tailspin, but what I did from the beginning, my friends thought was retarded. They thought I was stupid. Girl, what is wrong with you? Because I went in looking at something that on paper, accepting something, agreeing to something that on paper didn't make sense. It didn't match up. It was like, why would you take this risk? Why would you risk being with a person who is completely opposite than you? You don't have any of your needs met, right? But for me, it's like, well, I feel something different. Like I know that's true. That's true. I see what you see. That's true. But in my spirit, in my soul, I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. This feels right. This is a soulmate of mine, and it is or was or whatever. I don't know how that goes, but it's like this is what I feel like I should be doing because there's something here for me. And that's how I try to operate. And I don't always get it right, but that's how I try to operate. Is there something here for me energetically? Do I feel like is this a journey that I want to take? A journey, not like the end goal, but is this something I want to try? And of course, as I'm being honest, I could be further honest. This is hindsight, people. At the time, it was all feeling. Like I felt it, but I couldn't explain it like this. So I dove into it, and in some ways I got my heart crushed. I did, but in a lot of other ways, I had some of the most amazing experiences, in my life to date. And I got some amazing clarity on some things, and I learned so much about myself. And on the other side of it, I look back, and this is something we're going to explore in detail next week. I look back on stuff that I thought I had taken care of, like abandonment issues, PTSD, trauma is huge. And that's one of the things that people come together on energetically is their trauma. And that's what had happened. And there was some residue and stuff that I thought, cause I've been working. I'm like, I've worked for years,
Yeah.
counseling, pulling back layer by layer, by layer. And still there's some residue left because if there wasn't, our energies wouldn't have matched up, right?
Right.
That's how that goes. And I fully believe in that. And so I fully believe there is a reason for every single connection and none should be discounted.
True. Man, I think you said something very important, and I was actually going to touch on that. You said that people don't appreciate the journey. I think that is one of the biggest problems in our relationships, and we're talking about infidelity and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The value that we place on our partners in this culture is horrible.
Yeah.
Okay, once we think we got somebody,
Yeah.
you're there, you're not going anywhere. We treat each other really bad.
Yeah.
We start to minimize each other's contributions to our lives. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And our energy, our happiness, and we start to treat each other just as bad as somebody on the street. I mentioned it before, the way we talk to each other sometimes, the name calling,
Oh boy.
and the way some people even talk about their partner behind their back to other
Yes.
people
Yes.
is like, are y'all even together or what?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I think that is a huge deal
Yeah.
to take the time out to appreciate the things that you experience with your partner in a relationship because I think if people appreciated each other more, all right, then they could take care of their relationship a lot better.
Yeah.
All right. And like you said, a lot of times, things could work out for you, but it's like you're looking elsewhere. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Instead of focusing on what's right there in front of you.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's wow.
Joe, that part right there. People are always looking elsewhere, and looking elsewhere includes looking at your partner. So people go from the outside in instead of the inside out. Because if you're happy as an individual within yourself, what your partner's doing just doesn't matter as much. Like I remember going through most of my short life so far, and never experiencing somebody cheating on me. I had no idea. People be like, you never, I don't know. Because I ain't paying attention to them. I don't know. I'm busy. I got stuff to do. As long as when huh?
Said right, you're not even thinking like that.
I'm not even thinking about it. It's not in my mind. It's nothing. It's not on my focus. I'm not focused on it at all. It's not even on the table in my mind. It's like, I'm busy. As long as when we're together, this feels like, it should feel in my mind.
Right.
I'm not thinking about that. But
I
people
just
go into it thinking about that. Like, oh my God, this, you got to do this. You better keep this up. You better do that. Or, he could step out. You see that stuff all the time. We on Facebook. You see these memes on Facebook. I always get it from somewhere else. Don't nobody care. Ain't nobody thinking about that. And ironically, well, I would say it never happened. I don't know. They never, I never caught anybody that never fessed up to it. So it just wasn't a problem. It wasn't a thing. There were other reasons, but that wasn't a thing because it wasn't a focus. And then I think it's important, we're going to have to close out, but it's important for us to at least touch on, can you move forward after it's happened? Because it happens so much. You can't just break up with everybody who cheat on you because that's your issue. If everybody cheating on you, that is your attraction. And that's the
jeez.
honest to God truth. And that is a hard thing to say because it's a
Wow.
painful thing to be cheated on. And I know that. And it's a hard thing to receive. But if you can hear that, then you're well on your way to being healed and ready for something more healthy. And so my thing is, if you're looking back, you're depressed. Looking back at the past and all the things that went wrong or whatever they did, that creates depression all day long. If you're worried about the future, if are they going to do it again? What's going to happen now? We're going to be able to get along. Then that creates anxiety. You jacked up, man. We have to live in the moment and create it in the best way we possibly can. So that's kind of my idea in terms of if people can move forward. What do you think? Do you think people can
That's
survive infidelity?
well, that is a huge question. First of all,
Yeah.
because even those who think they can survive it, most of them don't, and a lot of people think they cannot, and some people find out that they can. So I think surviving infidelity is the same as participating in infidelity. It starts with a choice. Okay, you have to make a choice and stick to that choice. If you really want to be with someone and, infidelity happened,
Mm-hmm.
you choose to move on with that person, you have to make the choice to let that go. Because if you don't, there's no way to move forward. There's no way to have a productive relationship.
Right.
So my answer is yes, I think you can get past it, but you have to make that decision. And it's easier said than done because that includes bringing it up,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah.
Uh, you can't keep, every time you get upset, bringing it up, but you said you moved on. Well, you haven't moved on, you know what I mean? And that's okay, we're human, you know what I mean? But you have to make that decision.
Yeah.
Am I going to stick with this person or not, and not use it as a weapon?
Right. I completely agree there. Completely. And the other thing I would add is unfortunate, but I find it happens more often than not when somebody is caught in, cheating or whatever. And of course, there's a period where they are reprimanded in a way, when their partner is mad or whatever, or withholding, however they respond. There's a period where they really have to feel it. Like they have to own up to what they did and feel it, feel the repercussions of it. And I find though that usually that person who has violated the relationship, instead of going through that journey of feeling the pain of repercussions, they instead turn to anger themselves. And like we said at the beginning, they have reasons. They have, excuses. They have justifications. And that's one way, or one example that I would say that lets me know that you probably cannot work through it. Like if the person, both people, but especially the offending partner, if they're not willing to go through that uncomfortable period and be upfront and honest and find ways to correct it, and correcting is different for everybody. So whatever that looks like for their relationship, if they're not willing to actually go through that process without playing the blame game, that's not something in my mind that can be fixed. You might as well let that go. Wash your hands of it. Go on to your healing and keep it moving. But if they are willing, and this is not a license to bash somebody over the head about it, or, to use it, like you said, as a weapon, but there is a really raw period of pain. I mean, it's not, it's a very personal thing, but for most people, it's a very painful thing. And so that period is there. It always is. And whatever that journey looks like, what grieving looks like. You just kind of, and you have to be there as that person grieves, and you have to deal with that. All the whole roller coaster, you have to deal with it and
Good point.
be understanding and empathetic and
You have
still
to,
be loving. Huh?
right. You have to make a decision
You
to
have to make
stick
a
with
decision.
the decision.
That's real. And not like the first decision you made, then you snuck around and like
Make a different decision.
it's okay. You can begin again. You can always begin again. Make a different decision.
That's a good point.
I love that, Joe. I really love that because I believe in taking a leap of faith. I fully do.
Yes, you do.
But
You have a high vertical too. You like
uh,
top.
I do. I got long legs in that area, but
I respect you for that though.
thanks, Joe. Like it's not something I can explain in this forum, but since he's known me literally my entire life, he knows my many journeys. And it's not just romantic relationships, all kind of relationships. He knows my many journeys, and my lifelong commitment to this thing called love. And taking a leap of faith is something that we all do.
Yeah,
Always, we are always taking a leap of faith. It's just a matter of, are you going to let your fear control you, or are you going to work through it and be brave? And I'm always rooting for being brave,
it's a wonderful thing because
So
I mean, you actually helped me out a lot. You remember I was just fussing at you this past weekend because I was like, man, you got me over here listening to Babyface,
ah,
feeling all soft.
you're welcome.
And I'm just like, it's annoying to me because I don't like to really feel that way. But
Oh
you
man,
know, you have really helped me to kind of open myself up and say, you know what, this don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
not that
Do
serious.
what you feel. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And if you feel like loving, then love
right.
and love freely,
Yes, yes, freely
which
and
is
completely.
which is really the only way, to be honest.
Anything else is not really love.
True.
It's convenience. It's a lot of other things, but it's not really love. And that's something that we kind of have to learn. We through experience.
True.
Joe, we gotta wrap this up. We've been on here forever. Look, it's we're coming up on an hour.
Uh,
Um, but I think this is a really important conversation because I fully believe that all infidelity really starts within ourselves because we're always selling ourselves short on something in some area before we even get to that step. And so next week, and I mentioned this briefly, but I started to talk about the kind of revelations I had about myself in terms of some residual abandonment issues and PTSD, some trauma I've had from relationships. And we're going to dive into that next week. And I'm going to add on to that how we might be setting our children up for failure because a lot of this stuff that we don't deal with, a lot of this PTSD, we don't deal with. And then we become adults and we have kids and we teach them the same crap and they have the same relationship issues as we did or do, because we never take the time to fully heal. It's even, half people don't even know what's going on. They don't even know they got issues.
It's
They
about to
think
get
it's the
deep.
way it's supposed to be. Yes, Joe. So that's going to extend our conversation to family, because I think it's important that we touch on the rest of the family, not just the romantic partners, because love is love. And to me, you should love everybody the same. Meaning the unconditional love you practicing with your kids, when you let them get away with all that BS, you know they're not supposed to. You should be practicing that with your partner and vice versa. So that's my end of the show spiel. Leo, you got anything for the people?
Uh, well, yeah, I just hope that we've provoked some thought and some conversation with this topic. I know a lot of times we talk about these topics, we come from a different angle
Yeah.
than most shows, and I think it's very helpful. And if you have dealt with infidelity, like we spoke about, I think it's best that you decide. You make a choice. Either you're going to be able to withstand and overcome, or you will not. And from there, you know what to do.
Yeah.
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 I love it. Thank you, Leo. This has been awesome. Thank you guys for joining us today. We will be right back here next Monday at 8 p.m. Rolling on to the next subject and opening it up, talking about our families, our extended families. Until then, y'all, think about it. And when you make a decision, be about it. All right. We'll talk to you then. Peace and love.